Hello guys, I think you can see what today's 2 from 1 is going to be about. In this second episode of 2 from 1 I'm going to talk about a band that was formed in the city that the band is named after in 1967 and has become one of the most popular band, especially when it comes to mixing jazz, funk and strong melodies and rock music. You can hear in the background that of course is Chicago. It's a band that I have liked very much for a very, very long time. I think I discovered the first time in 1985 when I heard You're the Inspiration for the first time in television. And I really liked that song from the beginning. And I have some childhood memories with that song. Then it was like most everybody. In the 80s wasn't after You're the Inspiration, maybe not Chicago's most selling period here in Sweden until Look Away came in 1989. As I said in previous video that I really like that song actually. It's good lyrics. But more about Chicago's later adventure later on. There's a great saxophone solo and trumpet solo here. You can hear the jazz elements here in Chicago. Chicago started as Chicago Transit Authority. The first album is called that. But then the breakthrough came with the second album. That means, at least commercially, it's counted as this. The second album is counted as the breakthrough. I said in my first 2 from 1 video that I'm not a stranger to go back in time and take an earlier album if this artist has foot in both 70s and the 80s, and Chicago has, no doubt about it, even 60s. But I have chosen 2 Chicago albums from 2 different eras, you might say, because Chicago has definitely been going through changes in their style during the years. And the first Chicago album that I definitely want to present is, now when I mention it, this one. Chicago's second album. It is called officially, publicly, it's Chicago 2, even though it's officially it's called Chicago 1. Chicago, because it's the first album that whether it was just called Chicago. But this is a very, very exciting album. Maybe one of the most exciting albums I definitely have. You can hear here in the background. This album is definitely consisting very different kind of styles. It's but most of all, it's an album that I think is really rocking, really great production, great jazz elements. It's awesome produced. And this album also is most of all consisting a lot of song cycles. We have a song cycle Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan. It's very, very nice, both jazzy and rocky song cycle that it's really, really awesome actually. You never know where it's going to end actually because it takes so many directions. We also in the end have a song cycle called It Better End Soon that is very, very relaxing and really good. In that song cycle also there's a song called Where Do We Go From Here, which is actually the first song that Peter Cetera wrote for this band. Not the first album he sang in, but the first song that he wrote on his own. And especially, there's a song here that I like very much, and I think no one is surprised if I say that is 25 or 64. I think that is an awesome single, it's an awesome song. Uh, if you listen to the song, it's very so. It's not like me to like that kind of rocky, unsorted songs actually, but it's really exciting. It's so really awesome produced. It's awesome melody and surprising in every tone actually. And I think that is also what's going to go. What is specific for this album? It's surprising. It's done with a lot of fantasy, and you never know where this album is actually going to end. So I like this album very much, and a very special album to me. Got it pretty cheap also actually. Then Chicago transformed into still keeping this jazz connection, but became more popular, more softer, with more ballads, and I actually want to say that I really love "If You Leave Me Now." I think that is an awesome ballad. I think that's maybe one of the best ballads ever made, actually. So at least in the 70s. So I really also like the more 70s, the 70s version of Chicago. Then when the 80s came, they met up with David Foster and changed direction again into a more commercial style with a more radio rock, radio pop music, more commercial ballads and so on. And Pete Cetera was the one in the band that was welcoming this new style the most, which is to know someone's surprise actually if you listen to Pete Cetera's later work as a solo artist. It's all that far away actually. And the second album I'm going to present is their number 16. Unfortunately, this is a cutout, but still it is a magnificent album. This is an album that I think is maybe one of Chicago's best albums actually. Much because that it is stuck in the middle of the old Chicago and the newer style. You can hear elements of the more commercial Chicago in the single. Hard to say. I'm sorry. It's total proof that they're changing into a more radio style, more commercial style. But if you listen to a great song like Bad Advice, and on this album, that one is has still have a lot of elements from the old Chicago with little more jazzier style, and maybe this is the most surprising Chicago album in the 80s that really just relax, sit back, relax, and enjoy a very cozy but at the same time very colorful and a special album. I like this album very much. I think Pete Cetera sings awesome here. So there's a lot of great songs here like Love Me Tomorrow, or I really like Sonny Think Twice. I think that is a great song. This album is from 1982, and also a huge thank also of course to David Foster, who has given this album a really great sound actually. It's one of the, I can call it, fathers of the new Chicago sound. So Chicago 16, I didn't think from the beginning that this wasn't going to be all that good, but it was far better than I ever could imagine. So this is an album I truly recommend, highly recommend it. So after that, Chicago then became more rock and more special until Pete Cetera left the band in 1986. In my video for James Clarkston, I gave a little background on why that Pete Cetera wanted to do more solo albums. He did one in 1983. He wanted to do more solo albums and switch between solo works and Chicago works, but Chicago wanted him all to himself and said that he cannot do it in solo albums, so he quit the band. And Bill Champlin, who is doing his first appearance in Chicago in this album, and he actually sings a lot of songs here also, so it's a smooth passing from Pete Cetera to Bill Champlin, who already had been singing with Chicago on several songs. They did on I think it was on Chicago 18, they did a special version, a new version on 25 or 64. It's not a bad version, but it is of course far from the version on this album. Then of course they became even more power ballad-like in Chicago 19 when Dan Worm wrote Look Away. And Robert Lamb, who is one of the founders of the band, is doing most of the lead singing today. I said in my video to James Clarkston that I hadn't been listening all that much to Robert Lamb. Now I have. I've been listening to YouTube and studying Robert Lamb a bit, and he's not a bad singer actually for Chicago, but he's no Pete Cetera, and he's not even a Bill Champlin. He isn't a bad singer for Chicago. But I think he works so well because he had sung with Chicago during the Pete Cetera also. Robert Lamb is okay, but he's not Chicago, but I heard some song from their later albums. The latest was released this year. Chicago, what is 36? Actually, that came out this year, and doesn't sound all that bad. It's actually it sounds okay. Album. I'm nothing against to have it, but it's I think that they were at their best in these eras. And of course, You Are the Inspiration is a magnificent ballad. So now the natural question is, which kind of era do I prefer if I had to choose? And I honestly going to say I can't, because I don't want to choose. I think that they're good, but in different ways. I really like this jazz rock style in the early years. I like the more smoother jazz pop ballads in the 70s very much because they created so many great songs. But I also like the 80s version with You're the Inspirations and Hard to Say I'm Sorry and so on. I really like those songs also. So I really don't want to choose because they're good in so different ways. They sound so much unlike each other, but still they fit Chicago so well. Maybe that is why I like Chicago so much, because they're a band that can do almost everything, I think, and maybe and they have so much width in their style actually, and it works very well for them. But as I said, these ones are the best Chicago for me. Chicago number 2 or 1, whatever you call it, or 16. And I also can recommend, of course, Chicago 17 with Your Inspiration. Also a great album. So with that, I hope that you have been enjoying my talking about Chicago, and be a hard time of the following week when it comes to records. I'm soon going to Stockholm, our capital, and do some buying, and next Saturday it is a record fair, the autumn record fair here in Sundsvall. So it's going to be some heavy vinyl updates in the next week. So until then, I hope to have you have a nice weekend, and see you.